da consciência do que significam esses conhecimentos para a humanidade. Então, só ressaltar que eu acredito que ainda precisamos pegar esse direito de um pensamento filosófico crítico para pensar esses destinos da humanidade, deste planeta também, pensar a condição da tecnologia e da ciência.
Again, I hear this feeling of this conflict between technology and humankind. I'm so sad. I'll remind you of other technologies throughout the years that were going to disrupt all of humankind. Hammurabi's Code, the first written law that was in evidence. It said that if a woman disgraced her husband, the woman should be thrown into the river. But it also said that if the man disgraced his wife, the man should be thrown into the river. So the first evidence of equality. Then along came the printing press. It disrupted humankind, because until that time, the only people who learned to read and write were the priests and the kings, because they were the only ones who could afford books. They were the only ones who needed to read or write. So the printing press disrupted society. The printing press, by the way, was one of the main weapons of the Revolution of the United States in 1776, because the printing press printed articles that people read that made them angry against the king. Then came along the telephone and the telegraph, things that allowed us to communicate in a fraction of a second, where only the written word had been carried by horse and travel on foot. It was going to disrupt the world. And it did, but I think that most of us think it was for the good. Along came the radio or the phonograph and the record player. And there was a man in the United States who thought that people would stop being able to sing because they would only be listening to the radio or to the phonograph. Then along came TV and radio. And finally, today, the internet. All of these are technologies. All of these we have to balance with everything else. But I'll go back to what I said before. The control is in your hands. You are the people in control of your lives and your children. You can make the difference. But you have to think about it. And you have to make a choice. You have to exercise your freedom. And you have to work with your universities and your high schools and your businesses to make them do that. Because unbridled capitalism is almost as bad as unbridled communism. And you have to blend the two of them, blend the technology, and blend the culture to come up with your future. You cannot stand back and let other people do it.
Obrigada. Com certeza nós não esgotamos todas as questões aqui. Não temos mais tempo. Então, acredito que é isso que a gente quer mesmo, o debate, as reflexões, e que o tema não se esgota, né? Temos muitas questões que vão ficar, né, até para os conferencistas levarem para suas próximas reflexões em outros momentos. Então, nós vamos encerrando com as considerações finais de cada um, né? Agradecendo muito nossos queridos conferencistas. Tenho certeza que esse evento ganhou muito com a presença e com a contribuição de vocês. Então, eu passo para o John fazer as considerações, depois ao professor Henrique. Rapidamente, né? Nós temos não só o tempo daqui do evento, mas também o tempo deles. O professor Henrique está indo embora hoje. E aí nós temos então que finalizar com as considerações de cada um deles. Muito obrigada. John, por favor.
Actually, I'd like to take my final remarks to answer one last question. It says, if learning can be empirical, would you say today's universities are designed to make money instead of teach? Because in Brazil, we see graduate lawyers who don't know law and engineers who don't know how to add. What's the role of teachers when it comes to motivating their students? I don't think this is a problem of motivation as much as a problem that some teachers feel it hurts the students not to graduate them. The worst thing you can do for a student is to graduate them when they don't know what they've learned. Because you're unfair to the employer, you're unfair to the student, and you're unfair to the school that that student is coming from. Remember, I told you that the only thing that gives the certificate any value is the faith that the community has in that certificate. If you graduate somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, who cannot do their job, who cannot think, then the faith in your institution goes down. Also, there are people who simply can't do every job. It's a fallacy to think that everybody can do everything. But if you help them find the thing that they can do better, then they may be happy the rest of their life, instead of trying to do something where they struggle and cannot do it. So give them every chance to be what they want to be, but do not be afraid to say, I'm sorry. You cannot go forward because you haven't learned and haven't demonstrated what you need to do. Thank you.
Eu só quero dizer muito obrigado a todos vocês por estar aqui para compartilhar estas reflexões e vamos a seguir dialogando daqui da frente. E muito obrigado para os organizadores por me haver convidado a este momento tão importante de diálogo. Muito obrigado.
Eu não sei. Isso, tem a Liliane também, tem o crachá dela aqui. Não sei se ele... Se ele escreve.